When we arrived in Athens, we were not incredibly impressed. It was too hot, too sticky. In the morning we had a Greek breakfast of rolls and coffee, and then we headed off for Piraeus, the port, to catch a ferry to Spetse, the island where we're going to be spending the next 2 weeks. The boat on which we travelled was the unbelievably named Mania Express, and that's the slow boat, so God only knows what they call the hydrofoil. The trip on the Mania Express was very enjoyable. It took about 2.5 hours, passing and docking briefly at the islands of Paros and Hydra, both of which looked quite beautiful. We arrived at Spetse in late afternoon and found our hotel, the Star, on the main square. Our first problem was the discovery that we would only have water at odd times of day, early morning, late evening, because the island only gets 30,000 gallons delivered each day and has no water of its own. From the balcony of our hotel, we could look down and we saw a priest tolling the bell in the local church. The main forms of transportation on Spetse are small motorbikes, but there's also a number of horse-drawn carriages. The most consistently heard sound on the island is the sound of the crickets, of which we have discovered there are 2 types, although we're not entirely sure what the difference between them is. After a delightful stroll around town, we repaired to a local taverna and enjoyed retsina and, what else? Moussaka. The island itself is thoroughly low-tech, but we were very impressed to see the arrival of Russian hydrofoils every day, rather beautiful, sleek vessels. We quite quickly settled into a habit of eating at 3 different restaurants every day. We would have a starter in one restaurant, sometimes fried aubergine, a favourite at the Paradiso, and then a main course in another restaurant, probably complete the meal with loukoumades at a 3rd establishment for our dessert. We were aiming mainly for the villages of Costa and Portohelli, but in the end, the journey itself was so interesting that we didn't end up in either of them. We just wandered around, visiting local churches and encountering groups of local children, not to mention local goats and horses. And we found the house in which John Fowles had written the book The Magus, which was one of our favourites at the time. But we actually ended up at a gorgeous beach called Agia Paraskevi. This was an idyllic pebble beach with clear water and one white gin palace out in the bay. A few scattered sunbathers, a church off in one corner. We sunbathed with crickets chirping in the woods behind us and waves lapping at our feet. We improvised a refrigerator to cool off our drinks using a Grupo Sportivo t-shirt, some ribbon and a lot of stones to hold the shirt under the waves. While waiting for a horse-drawn cab one night, we encountered a local gentleman called Dimitris Stathis, who, the following day, took us to the villa of a former mayor, Mr. Gomoz. Mr. Gomoz showed us pictures of himself with various Greek kings, generals of the junta, shipping magnates, ambassadors, Margot Fontaine, and others too numerous to